Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
And welcome in, everyone. Today is August 12th, 2024. We just got through the week one of preseason. And a lot of exciting things going on. How we doing today, boys?
Pretty good. We're missing Mr. Matt High. He's down there with Tyreek Hill in Florida. And had a
Visiting
little.
the map.
Why? What
He's not exactly with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah,
he's at Disney, but
this is
Tyreek Hill
we're not
is in
misleading
Florida,
anybody.
so
we are not affiliated
he's
with Miami
personally
Dolphins in any way.
personally visiting Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, no, that's not
Uh,
happening.
but no, it's been good. It's fun to watch all these rookies, see how they're doing in their first NFL action. Shed a couple tears like that Indian on the commercial when Malik Neighbors hurt his ankle. I was nervous and very scared, but we are good.
Yep.
It's minor.
I wouldn't say we're good per se, but I think that it's
Malik Neighbors is
definitely
good. That's the main.
major injury avoided. That's for sure. So
I was
good
scared.
to see you there.
I cried a
But
little
yeah,
every night until I got the
it
better.
was. Well, it was a exciting weekend of games, that's for sure. But yes, as you can see, no leader today, aka Matt High. So you got the three boys, and we're gonna run this show today, doing our top 12 consensus running backs. We got a big show, so we can really just start. Let's kick it off right from the top.
You mean the bottom, right?
We're looking, yes, the bottom, Chris.
Ha
So, looking at our top 12 today, starting at number 12, we have Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is currently, as I'm looking across the individual rankings here, seems to be Joe's favorite out of all of us. We all ranking him kind of at the back end of that top 12. I am actually at 12. Matt and Chris more so a little past that to 14, but Joe is ranked him as the sixth overall on his list. Joe, explain yourself.
So
Where were you?
my reasoning is that Kamara is pretty much, I guess, outside of Olave and of course the Swiss Army knife Taysom Hill, the main focal point of this offense. Um, both me and Matt High are not very high on Derek Carr. I don't know about you two, how high you are on Derek Carr. I assume not very high, but
Yeah, not very high.
we also watched Spencer Rattler
Let me
throw
check.
four
Yeah, no.
interceptions in that preseason game, so that made me a little nervous as well. So I think Kamara is going to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to be a run-first team because they're not going to trust any of these quarterbacks throwing the ball as much as other teams are going to. So when you're running the ball a lot, that's going to equal fantasy points. We also have seen that Kamara can catch the ball. So between catching the ball and running the ball all the time, that's just equaling a lot of fantasy points, and that's why I have him so highly up. He's the clear-cut number one there, and I'd be excited to get him. I drafted him last year in our fantasy draft, and I got him pretty late because of that suspension. So I think he's going to go a little higher in these drafts because he's not suspended now. But that's why I think he's going to be a top 10 running back.
I will agree with you. I do think there is good value for where he is being drafted right now, and for him obviously being the clear cut running back one there. I mean, Kendra Miller doesn't seem to be really knocking at taking away any type of touches from him, and we do know the elite passing ability that Kamara does have. So we do love that as with PPR formats. So overall, no, I do agree with you there for sure. Chris, you're a
Yeah,
little bit on the outside though.
I am. Yeah, me and our Matt High, who's not here, are a bit on the downward trend. This is nothing like in a sense against Alvin Kamara in that case. I don't really. He's a little weird, honestly. For me to rank, which is why I put him at 14. I don't want to say it's necessarily a bad ranking, by any means. He was a beast last year. He might do it again. Obviously, contract talks are there. I know it's coming up very, very soon on his end. I know there, stuff is going on in that camp. Uh, I have a slight worry about the dysfunctional offense of the Saints, and that's going to somehow destroy. It shouldn't. That should, because I feel like when offenses are dysfunctional, the running back always does well. Usually, I mean, look at McCaffrey. He's a prime example of that philosophy. But for some reason, man, I don't know. I'm not liking it. I really don't. I think that's why I have him this low. I also have a weird feeling they're going to try to push Keandre Miller to do something that he probably shouldn't. Like, I feel like they're going to try and push him in a weird direction. They're going to be like, oh, he's the running back of our future. And while that may be true or not, you have the guy right there at the moment. So I don't know. I have a really weird feeling about it. That's why I put him at 14. I wouldn't say it's bad. He's still going to do his thing. He could very easily be better than the 14th slot. It wouldn't surprise me. But I something about that team just gives me uh it just gives me some worries. I'm not
I,
a
they were pretty dysfunctional last year, and
Nope.
Kamara, he averaged 11.7 fantasy points per game of the 13 games he played, which
I
is
know.
higher than both James Cook and Bijan Robinson. So, and they're highly ranked this year. So that's why I have him Kamara so high. Is if he plays that much on a dysfunctional team, he's gonna do it all, and that's why he's gonna get so many points.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I like it. So moving on, then we're gonna go to Travis Etienne Jr. And really looking at it, we are kind of all on agreement here, I'd say. I mean, looks like Matt's at 10, I'm 11, Joe's 10, Chris at 9. So I think we all kind of view him consensusly as just the back end of the top running backs that you can get, in this as you go through this year's draft. So overall, Jaguars offense seems like they're on the upswing, I would say. I mean, granted, they did lose Calvin Ridley, but it didn't seem like really Calvin Ridley fit into that, sort of offense, I guess. It's tough to really see the um see what could have been, there it really just didn't make sense, I guess. So moving on to this year, we got Brian Thomas Jr. in there now. You have Christian Kirk still leading the way. You still have Evan Ingram there. Travis Etienne is definitely a great weapon, and we know has that repertoire with Trevor Lawrence. So I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this overall, but I think overall it's we see him in the same light. No,
I would say so.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
so.
he's good. Serviceable. You know what you're gonna get. He's just solid. I like it.
Agreed.
yeah, no, of course, of course. I mean, looking at the Jaguars, do you think that they're going to be an offense that's going to threat this year, that's actually going to go further into the playoffs, like a positive winning team at the end of the season?
That is all on Trevor Lawrence's shoulders. Literally. I don't think it's anything with Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne will probably do just fine with or without Trevor Lawrence being good, but the team itself requires him to step up and actually be the guy that everyone thought he was going to be. But I don't have any worry on Etn in that front. He'll do fine, even if the team isn't. Um, so it should. I think it's a real coin flip. That's a real 50-50 right now, in my opinion. On if that's gonna. I mean, the Jaguars are doing everything they can to give him all the tools he needs. So I think if there was a year to finally prove that you can do it, now is that year. I like to think he has the potential to, but only time will tell. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, the Jags are a very good offense, and I'm really big on Travis Etienne. I think I'd be even higher on him if he was on a more run-heavy team. I do think the Jags have good offensive weapons, like Richie was saying. Kirk's still there. They got Gabe Davis. They now have Brian Thomas, who we've seen make some really good catches week 1 of preseason. So I'm real excited for him. So I think it's going to be a pretty good split of run and throw, which isn't a bad thing, but it also lowers my expectations for uh, him in fantasy wise with his points. But I do think he's going to have a really good season. We know he's a good player, barring injury, and that's why he is in my top 12.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Alrighty, so moving on then to our next guy, which seems to be a hot topic of discussion, Isaiah Pacheco, the Kansas City running back, the Thunder Runner. So looking at where we are overall, I think seems that Joe and Matt, being at 11 and 12, more on the back half. I have him ranked as the 8th overall, and Chris has him as 6th. So it seems that we favor him a little more, Chris. Why do you?
For starters, I mean, he's my guy. I gotta defend my boy. You know, I gotta defend my boy. But no, in
It's
all
true.
seriousness, Isaiah Pacheco is weird to me in this sense. In terms of like, I think as a running back, I don't think he's actually like the greatest in a sense. Like, if he were on different teams, I don't know if I would actually be rating him this high. But he's extremely versatile. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball decently well. I mean, that there it is right there. That's all the points effectively that you need. And he does it I feel like in a way on that team that just almost fits perfectly. Before on that team, it was Tyreek Hill and then Travis Kelce, right? And those were the two offensive hitters. They really hadn't had a running back guy there for a while. Isaiah Pacheco kind of filled that role. He's kind of flown under the radar kind of into that area. He kind of like made his own name into it. There wasn't like oh my God, Isaiah Pacheco, like no big trade to it. No, nothing like that. He just kind of emerged. So he's like built into this offense. He knows, they use him. I feel he feels like almost not like a running back and also not a wide receiver. The way that he's used, I don't know how to describe it. But whenever like I see him play or whatever, and how it's like he's being used in terms of like where they're putting him in, I just have like this. It's almost like a new way of using the running back position. I almost feel like, and I mean he's prospered from it. I don't have the exact ranking in front of me, but if you give me 2 seconds, I will get it for you. Where he finished last year. He finished exactly. So he finished running back 16, currently projected to go 54th overall. Right. My thought process is this: with the addition of Xavier Worthy and Marquise or Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown, I have a feeling that he might actually be one of the bigger benefactors of those additions. Now there's more diversity of actual people there to get the ball. It'll make more of a way in for him to do what he needs to do.
No, I definitely agree with you. Kyron, I think, is just a athletic freak, really. I mean, the way that he kind of
Isaiah
trucks himself
Pacheco,
through. I'm
not
sorry,
Kyron.
you are correct. I got
You're good.
sidetracked there for a second.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yes.
I understand. You're in a Matt High was in there. I feel it. Yeah, it's fine. I
The
get
ghost
it.
of Matt High.
He's still with us here.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, Pacheco, very athletic. I think Andy Reid sees that, highlights it in the offense, and kind of uses the ability, to his advantage. So that's why I do think that with that, Pacheco should have a great year once again. You know. But Joe, you don't feel the same, I can see. I mean, you do, but a little bit lower.
I do have him in my top 12, but he's on a team with Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, arguably. I would rather have a wide receiver on that team than the running back. Also, you got to look at the draft. Pacheco was taken in the 7th round, pick 251, and they still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on that team, who's drafted in the 1st round, pick 32. So they have no allegiance to Pacheco outside of he's doing well. I do think he is the RB1 there, but they could easily sign someone, take another running back off on the future draft board. And I do think that Pacheco will see more of the receiving work in the backfield than Pacheco will. Pacheco's really that run first guy. First and 10, he's going to see if he can get some yards. Maybe the goal line work, he'll get some. But with the passing game, you're going to look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They did put that 1st round draft capital in him, and I think he's going to see that passing work. And just having a running back on a pass first team like the Chiefs are, that's what has me a little lower on him for fantasy points. And that's why I have him at my 12 slot instead of as high as I think I might have him at 12. Yeah, I have him at 12 instead of as high as some of you guys have him.
Okay.
Yeah, so all righty, nothing wrong there.
But
so
have you ever seen him
on.
run before?
Oh yeah, he runs angry. He runs angry. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying I'm just saying that
He's
if
a
you have
bad man.
if Patrick Mahomes is there, would you rather him throw the ball or would you rather have a running back run it? I think I
I
would
mean, when
trust
he's not
Patrick
angry,
Mahomes
I
to
don't know if I
throw it.
want to get in front of an angry
Okay.
dude. He run. I love watching him run. He's so funny. I
Yes.
love those like clips I see where he's it's like in the ground almost. Anyway, sorry. Moving on.
Moving on to the next, that would be none other than the king himself, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, I think, is being disgraced by you guys, honestly, because all of you have him in the end of the top 12 here, and I'm the only one here at number 7. And really, it's not fair. I mean, it's fair, I guess. You know,
Oh
the
yeah.
age is definitely a concern, and I do understand what that Lamar has his own rushing ability there and could definitely vulture the touchdowns away. But I've mentioned it in previous episodes about how I feel about the Baltimore rushing offense and how they go and what they do and how effective they are and how effective Derrick Henry has been in his career. And I just think the mashup is too good. I think he is an outlier of a running back and he will dominate in Baltimore. And that's really just my argument for having him, higher up than I guess you guys. But nonetheless, we still have him in that general area, which is kind of where he's being drafted anyway, between those players anyway. Travis Etienne and Isaiah Pacheco, I see in drafts, they're all going around the same as your RB2s, essentially, if you can, or maybe some people are grabbing them as RB1s still, depending on how you go in your early drafts. But yeah, I mean, talk to me, Joe. How you feel? What's your take on Derrick Henry?
No, I do like Derrick Henry. And the pure reason why I have him lower than you, and you mentioned it, is Lamar Jackson is on that team, and he is elusive. We've seen him dance, make yards out of plays that are falling apart, and he's good. And I don't know. There's a curse. There's a curse over there in Baltimore with running backs. They drop like flies,
Oh.
and Derrick Henry is not known to always stay the healthiest always. Knock on wood, I hope that doesn't happen. I think he's going to have a good season this year if he stays healthy. That's why he's in my top 12. I just have him a little lower over some of these other guys, just purely because of Lamar's rushing upside.
Before we go any further, I do just want to say, so we have Richie at 7, Matt's at rank 12, with Derrick Henry, Joe's at 11, I'm at 10. I just want to make sure that we have that in our heads.
Yes.
Did you want to respond, Rich?
No, I mean, I think that's point made. And that's really the knock on him is, as we discussed, it's the rushing ability of Lamar and a little bit of the age. So, but uh, only time will tell, as they say. And while we have this running back episode, we might as well hit the breaking news right now, just as I got this notification coming through that it seems
Oh.
Jahmyr Gibbs is being evaluated for a leg injury and has left practice early. Don't know the concern of the details yet, but that is the
Oh.
notification as of right now, seeing as we're in this episode, and we will be talking about him. So moving on to James Cook, running back 8 on our consensus. Matt has him ranked the highest. Oh, with Chris at 7, Joe at 9, and I seem to be the low man here, having him at 13.
Yeah, why don't you tell us why you
So,
hate him, Richie?
yeah, you know what? Honestly, when I did my rankings, I don't know if I really did give him hate. I'm pretty sure that I thought that I was high on him, but I think what it is that offense runs through Josh Allen, and we know that Josh Allen is the first option to run it in before the running back. James Cook, I think, is going to do fine with the PPR work. I mean, I think as far as him getting more integrated into this offense and gaining his stature as the RB1, I think, yeah, we can see definitely him, do great things. And there is a lot of vacated targets there, right? So should be interesting to see how that gets divvied up. And a lot of times when people do think that it goes to the wide receivers, oftentimes it does, there is a chunk of it that goes to the running back. So sure, I can be completely wrong here. This is one that I will definitely say that I could be wrong here and that he could end up being a great player. I might look his way in drafts, but nonetheless, yeah, I don't know. There's something about the amount of touchdowns, at the end of the season that he's going to have versus Josh Allen that makes me not really uh, want him per se as badly. Make sense?
Okay. That's fair. I guess if you're an idiot, no, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, no, I mean, I like James Cook. Obviously, Joe, you like James Cook also a little more than Rich does, as well. I think I see personally improvement from last season. I actually feel like he'll be a player that improves over time. I don't know to what his ceiling will be in the league, but I have a feeling that he will end up doing very well for himself.
Let me ask you.
He'll yeah.
Let me ask you. Do you see his brother as a ceiling? Dalvin Cook? Do we see that?
Yeah, you know what? I would say so. I would say it's a pretty decent ceiling, if not just a little below. Dalvin Cook was never truthfully the supreme RB1 in terms of fantasy. You always had other people in front of him. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was there pretty much like for most of the time. You have him. But
He was still very good though.
100%. Oh yeah. I would say probably yeah. If not at Dalvin Cook level, maybe just a little below. Um, right. I would definitely say. That's kind of like where I'm like picturing it. I just think that he's just happens to be in an offense that might not utilize the run to the extent that I feel like he can actually do. But I think it's very clear that the Bills understand the talent that they have, and they're kind of adjusting their offense to utilize that more. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, can see where Richie's coming from. I mean, it is Josh Allen's offense. He also has that rushing capability, but I don't know. I just think that James Cook has shown us enough that I'm like right in the middle of both of you guys, so I'm
You
little
are.
above, little above. I mean, look at him last year. He stayed healthy. He played 17 games and 11.3 fantasy points per game. That's pretty good, and that's if I got 11.3 fantasy points every game, I'd be happy with that from a running back. So um, very consistent. I like that. Like the team he's on, it's very one of the better offenses, arguably in the NFL. So yeah, sign me up.
Okay.
Sign Joe up for Dalvin Cook's brother.
Wow. Woof. All right. All right.
No, not good. All right.
No.
Anyway, moving on to the
Reel
next
it back
guy
in.
here. Moving on to the next guy, RB7 on our list, Rachaad White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back. Strangely enough, you guys all have him ranked at running back 8, and I have him at 10.
Yeah, tell
So
us why you
I
hate
think
Rachaad White.
oh man,
Why
is
do
this
you hate my man? My other running back.
Honestly, if you were to see my numbers, I feel like they're really only like 2 or 3 points apart from each other at this
Probably.
point, is before we start getting staggering to the top where, the other guys are. But I don't really have to defend myself too much here. We know that Rachaad White had some pretty poor numbers as far as just overall performance last season. Um, the only good thing I could say is that it's still pretty much the same team this year, offensive wise, that it was last year. Um, I don't, I don't know. I mean, how I feel about the encroaching running back, or the rookies in the room that came in, or the players that are also there, kind of eating into the work. I don't exactly know. That's kind of why I'm a little more hesitant. But nonetheless, he was still a great back last year. Um, and I could see more of a repeat of it this year. Just I don't know if it's in the same fashion per se.
I'm gonna jump in here, right? I just want to. He did finish as the RB7 last
Yeah.
year. Now of course, it is up to you how you want to define this. In the first, I'm counting, 6 weeks. Uh, oh, sorry, yeah, because he had bye week 5 last. There we go. So that's where that's coming in. So in the first 5 games he played, first 6 weeks, he had exactly one. You know, I don't know if boom is the word I want to use here, but like in a sense, he hit the average what he was supposed to. The other games, he was definitely below it. After that, he did not hit that point until week 17 against New Orleans. Every other time, he did just what he needed to do. Uh, and scored more than 11 fantasy points every single week after that. So slow start, maybe. If he didn't have that slow start, conversation's a little different. All I'm going to say here is don't sleep on Rachaad White. If you see him, good value. I see a lot of people sleeping on him. I actually think this is like one of the better value running backs. He's currently drafted 32 overall off the board. Depending on like how
Back
you,
of the third.
I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, he's the back of the third
Yeah,
drafted
yeah.
pick right
Like
now.
depending on how you're going about this, right? If you're picking running wide receiver 1 and 2 off the board, and you got your third pick, this is a fantastic third pick. Do not pass this up on solidifying what could be a fantastic running back, and then I don't know, finish up your zero RB thing in like round 6 with like Zach Moss or Jahmyr White or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's all I'll say on there. Joe, what do you think?
As a fellow number 8er with Chris and Matt, yeah, just looking at him last season, 12.2 fantasy points per game, played 17 games. Like to see that, stays healthy on a pretty good offense. I was pretty high on Baker last year, and he showed up and did pretty well. Yeah, I just like him on that team. I like Rachaad White. I don't think he's going to face too much competition with who they brought in. So I still think he's the clear-cut number 1 guy there, and I think he's going to have a good year.
Well, yeah.
Well said, Joe. Well said. Moving on. Number 6, Saquon Barkley. Shed a tear real quick as
Traitor.
a Giants fan.
Traitor.
We're not going to go that. We're not going to go that far. Okay, but looking at our rankings, Matt at 6, I'm at 4, Joe's at 4, Chris at 5. We're all pretty much right around that, the top 5, but just the back end of the top 5. Some of us a little bit on the inside, some a little bit on the outside. So overall, we still think, or we at least are putting our foot down, saying that Saquon's still got it, and in this offense, it's going to happen. We know he's going from one of the worst offensive lines to one of the best offensive lines. Granted, no more Kelsey involved there, no Jason Kelsey, but still a pretty rock solid team over there. So should be points galore, and also Saquon doesn't have to do it all by himself. He now has the help of having some great wide receivers to stretch the field and not just load up the box and going in to kill him. So we love to see that. Hopefully that keeps him healthy this season, throughout the whole season, and we get to see some authentic Saquon Barkley. Even though it will hurt me as a Giants fan. I will say that again, and now I'm over it. Chris,
Sure.
say something about my boy.
About Saquon? Yeah, of course. I'm a big fan of, unfortunately, where he landed. I mean, as a Giants fan, it sucks. But in terms of a fantasy perspective, this is probably the best possible scenario. As you said it, right? He doesn't do it by himself anymore, which means his risk for injury goes way down. Anyone who's worried about injury, you don't really have to worry about that too much, because if you really think about it, the reason why he probably got injured in the past is because he had to do it all by himself before. He was the offense. He doesn't have to be that anymore. He's actually going to be what a functional, good running back actually is. For those of you worried about him being on a powerhouse team with too many options, look at Christian McCaffrey. Look at Brees Hall. The same situation. Insane other options everywhere else. And he'll still get the ball and they'll still do great. So don't got to worry about that. He's just great. That's why we all have him pretty much at the same place. Joe, anything to add?
Yeah, I'm a little higher on him, up there with Richie. I've seen the coaches talk about him, that they want to get him heavily involved in that offense, which is great to hear. We all know that the running backs in Philly usually do pretty well. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do over there, escaping what was the disaster called the New York Giants. I think he's going to thrive this season, and that's why he's being taken so highly.
Okay.
I wouldn't doubt if we see really his best season.
Probably.
Moving on. Running back 5, Jonathan Taylor. Matt has him ranked at 5. I have him at 6. Joe at 3, and Chris has him ranked as his RB1, the number 1 overall pick, over Christian McCaffrey, over Brees Hall, over Bijan. Chris, I need to hear why.
Of course. Yeah, so I have a couple reasons. One, there is a little bit of emotional bias going into this. I feel like he deserves it after all the other random nonsense he had to go through to get to this point. He deserves it. Now let's go past the random emotional bias portion. Um, I believe the Colts understand the uh, glass cannon ish like nature of Anthony Richardson. And I don't believe they're going to use the rushing utility of Anthony Richardson as much as some people may think. He'll still rush. He will still do that plenty. Not saying that at
By
all.
some people, do you mean Matt?
Possibly.
Those
Perhaps.
people.
He will not be pulling Justin Fields levels of rushing attempts or yardage, in my personal opinion. And Jonathan Taylor, in my personal opinion, can do it all. That's why I have him as number one. He can catch the ball well. He can run the ball well. The injuries 100% have hindered him for his career, and I completely understand the hesitation. But if you want my honest opinion, right, on how this is gonna go, and this is all I'm gonna say, the line is a little bit better. The weapons are there, right? Everything is pointing towards like the Colts are at least a decent team. Uh, and I truthfully believe that this is going to be like the breakout year. Breakout for I put quotes. I know for those who are listening on Spotify or whatever, I put quotes around that because we already know what he can do. I don't think he's going to get injured. He's going to play all 17 games. He is going to be a monster this season. I fully believe that this guy is going to enter with everything behind him, and he is just going to tear it up. There is no competition to keep him back. There truthfully is like no other like weird controversy going on, right? The team understands what needs to happen. They know what they have to do to win. And that formula, in my opinion, is not giving Michael Pittman the ball. It's not giving Joshua Downs the ball. It's not having Anthony Richardson run for a lot. No, it is going to be Jonathan Taylor being the centerpiece and everyone else moves around him. That is how I'm going to see it, personally. That's how I'm going to go about it. Joe, I know you like hearing that because you are a Jonathan Taylor owner. You're not as high as I am. What do you think about my opinion?
I love it. Look, he's up there on the team board. Number one running back on team Subfuls over here.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I'm very high on Jonathan Taylor. I have him as my number 3. Um, just behind my other boy Brees Hall and of course the GOAT Christian McCaffrey. So I'm very high on him as well. Just I have those two above him. Spoiler alert. But yeah, no, he's gonna have a killer season. He's healthy. He's back. Anthony Richardson ain't gonna rush. He's probably gonna get hurt pretty soon. So we're gonna see a lot of JT, and I'm all here for it.
I want to make this a very big contingent, by the way. I know we joke about that whole like scenario there. Truthfully speaking, Anthony Richardson does have to stay healthy for this to come to pass. One of the big elements I'm banking on is the passing game. I need him to catch the ball. I truthfully believe he can play like somewhere in the slot. Hell, he can probably get a couple of deep passes. To be quite honest with you, I truthfully believe he can do it all. So he's got to stay healthy for the majority of the season. Anthony
We got
Richardson, I'm
Joe
talking about.
Flacco, baby.
Joe Flacco. There we go. Yeah, that'll work. Rich, what do you think? Are we reaching too far for the sun? Are we Icarus right now? Are we about to have our wings singed and fall to the ground?
Oh, I love Joe Flacco. Jonathan Jonathan Taylor's great. I definitely think he is a beast as far as a running back. But I guess the thing with me is I am more high on the Anthony Richardson train there. So I see the rushing going more so just like the Josh Allen scenario. I mean, Cam Newton is it's a comparison to AR. And yeah, that he just runs it in himself. I mean, if he can take a step back on that and just have it to his advantage, then I think we can kind of see it work out. And I can see Jonathan Taylor really cashing in because they have to anticipate Anthony Richardson running and Jonathan Taylor running, and both of them running is a problem, So Yeah, I think it could work. It really could. So overall, I do like the call. I mean, I don't know if I would put him over CMC, but with some of the news recently, I mean, who knows? Maybe you're onto something there. Either way, moving on, moving on. Next guy on our list is the one we just mentioned before. Seems that maybe Joe and Chris are onto something, knowing about what the news I just spoke about. But Jahmyr Gibbs is next on our list. And I have him ranked at 4. Rich, I mean myself at 3. Matt has him ranked at 4. I have him at 3. Excuse me. Joe has him at 7, and Chris at 11. So, Chris, I don't know why you can hate Jahmyr Gibbs unless you knew that this injury was going to happen,
I can
and
explain.
it's and we're not even. It's not even a confirmed injury yet. I mean, he might have just had a little bit of a tightness and needed some ice cream or something, But geez, why are you hating on the guy? 11.
I did it. I am the reason why he got injured.
Wow,
I
Joking.
what a
I
guy.
can tell you why I have him lower, and it's one word:
Yeah.
Monty. Monty's still
Okay.
there. Monty
You're right.
is an animal, and until he's off the team and Gibbs is the clear-cut go-to workhorse guy all season, I'm gonna have him a little bit lower than some of these other running backs, just because Monty is still there.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Okay.
many will remember that I called Jahmyr Gibbs a bust. Um, on our busts episode a little while back. And it wasn't for the reason that I don't think he's gonna like be irrelevant in a sense. I just don't think he's going to deserve to be like you're not gonna like you're gonna draft him at the end of the first, beginning of the second. I don't think you're gonna get that RB1 like the pure dominant guy sort of deal there. And that's why now 11 might be a little rough. I will admit. I believe he could finish anywhere between 11 to 8. Is where I'm going to go with in here. I will admit that's definitely a little rough there. However, my reasoning, as Joe said, Monty exists. That's definitely a huge issue for me. And because Monty exists, right, the 2 running backs, you got a huge full-fledged offense to deal with. He hasn't exactly proven himself to be someone like the McCaffrey um, or the Barkley tour. Like he can like kind of sort of command the power over the rest of the offense. The offense definitely runs through some other pieces rather than him at the current moment. Um, so that's kind of where I'm like thinking at per se. I'm just trying to set my boundaries or set my expectations where I think they actually should be. Could I be wrong? Sure, possibly. But I have a feeling that he'll end up uh definitely not at 4. I'll go with like I said, 11 through 8. But yeah, that's about
Okay, so let me ask you guys real quick. Would you rather take Jahmyr Gibbs with your first pick in the back of the first, where he's being drafted right now, or grab Monty in the back of the 4th?
it. Can I be honest? I'm gonna give you my honest answer. Neither.
Yes. Neither.
I would
Avoiding the
I
running backs both.
I'm avoiding both Detroit running backs in my I think there are definitely better options. In my personal opinion, than going for that. I've said this before as well, and I think some other people have said it as well. I'm not a huge fan of the crowded backfields there. I'm not a huge like oh my god yeah there are certain cases where I could make an exception. This is close to making the exception. I would rather take Jahmyr Gibbs. Like if you put a gun to my head, I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs over Montgomery any day of the week. Uh, However, I'm not a huge like I would just avoid it. And if there was anyone else that I could rationalize, like, oh yeah, I can take this guy and he'll just be better, I'm taking him over either of the 2, which for the most part I actually think exists. I mean, in the 4th round there, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember. I'm thinking back from a mock draft I did. I'm pretty sure I saw DJ Moore very close in that area, which is kind of insane. I don't know if that was a mistake or not in the ESPN
You
there, but
have right now around that same area, just looking at general draft areas. Stephon Diggs is there, Michael Pittman, Trey McBride, Devontae Smith, Malik Neighbors. Um, Earlier running backs, you might
I
still
would take
have Aaron
Pittman.
Jones. Ramondre Stevenson would still be there. Zamir White, James Conner.
I
Players
could
like that.
definitely take Pittman over that, to be quite honest with you. Is this wait, this is fourth round you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Pittman's probably, I feel like, a decently uh good answer to that if you're not taking Monty and you're avoiding the backfield. I feel like Stephon Diggs. I think we talked about me and Matt different episode about the worries I have there. But I think I would take Montgomery over Stephon Diggs. But I feel like Michael Pittman is definitely the answer I would go with there. As we all have said, we all love wide receiver ones. Of course, they do win games, except if you're Matt High. Sorry, Matt, you don't deserve those strays. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Joe, what
I
do you
do
think?
love wide receiver ones.
Uh,
Which one are you drafting?
out of the two, I
Yeah.
have to pick one.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm choosing to avoid it, and I told you which one I would draft if you held a gun to my head. So, in the same scenario, are you going into drafts wanting to draft either of them at their given ADP? Like, ignore the fact that you could get them later. Let's just
I'm a little hot. I'd be a little bit more wanting to take the shot on Gibbs, but maybe not in the early first. Like if I got him in the second, yeah. But I think there's better players I'd rather in the first.
In a 10 team, you probably could get him on the turn on the early part of the second. Just depends if you have that 9 spot or something like that,
True.
you know?
I feel like if I started with a really good wide receiver, I feel like I'd be more inclined to take the chance of Jahmyr Gibbs. I think I'd be more like, if I could solidify that, I might be okay with doing that because most people win leagues on taking risks. Um,
Yeah.
so
Well, yeah, I mean, I have him ranked as third, but overall, I think, I did these rankings a little bit ago. So right now, I definitely think that I would move Bijan above him. And I have Saquon. I'll leave Saquon there, but I'd probably move up. I'd probably swap him and Bijan, put him at 5.
uh,
So anyway, so that's at the 4 spot there for Jahmyr Gibbs. And that brings us to really our top 3. And the top 3 are the general consensus top 3 throughout the board. Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, and Christian McCaffrey in that order from 3 to 1. As you've seen throughout pretty much everywhere, anywhere you look, it's going to be just like that for the most part. But yeah, I mean, not much to really say about CMC other than he is the GOAT, as Joe mentioned. Guy is dominant on a dominant offense that pretty much focuses around him. Granted, there is the news about the injury, but I think we'll be just fine. It was a calf, if I'm not mistaken, and I
it
think
was. I think he's
he
back to
is.
semi-practice. I'm not too worried about the injury. That means almost nothing to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you want to be safe, seems that we have a little bit of competition there between Eli Mitchell being the backup or maybe Jordan Mason. I mean, the running that I saw from Mason this past weekend, yeah, I think he's kind of worked his way in there into the talk. So it's going to be interesting by the time we get to the season as to who is the number 2 back behind Christian McCaffrey, or they might just go by committee at that point. Breece, we love. We know Breece Lightning. Excited to see that offense actually do things with the Jets. It should be fun as long as they stay healthy. We're looking at you, Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Anything you want to say about any one of these boys?
Um, no, I think you summed it up perfectly. I think yeah, these are our guys. Even though I'm gonna say it right now, Bijan Robinson, our rankings, Matt has him at 1. Richie, you have him at 5. Joe at 5. Me at 4. So that number 1 is definitely carrying him just a little bit. But yeah, that's all I'll say there.
Well, I'm gonna switch him. I'm gonna put him to 3 for me because I am more in on
Oh,
Bijan. I
okay.
think uh I
So
think
is
there's good
Jahmyr now
things.
5 for you?
Jameer is now 5. I'm moving
Okay.
my
All
rankings.
right. Joe, are you making any last minute switches?
Nah, I'm
No.
keeping
Yeah.
it. I'm keeping him at 5. Especially the coaches have talked about that. They at first they're like, oh, we're going to use him a lot, and then they're like, oh, but he's going to be mixed in with Algier. So until I see what the offense is going to look like. Also, Kirk Cousins is there, who is a amazing passer. So I expect they're going to be running or throwing the ball more than they're going to be running in previous seasons.
He
So
says as a Kyle Pitts owner.
yeah, oh, I'm a believer. It's his it's his year. It's his year.
Every year is his year.
It's
When
like
will
the
you
new Joe
stop?
Mixon meme. Yeah, but that's the only reason I have him a little lower than some of these other guys.
Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah. So I mean, overall, this list, it's interesting to say the least. I think we've said what we're going to say about these top 12 here. The only thing I would like to add is kind of looking at that outside. It's just interesting on two players, and that would be Kyron Williams and Devon Achane. We seem to all not like them. I mean, except for Matt. Matt loves Kyron Williams, but overall, we have them ranked right now. Devon Achane, we have him ranked as the RB 15, and Kyron as the 13. So yeah, I mean, it seems we're down on them a little bit. I think it's I don't know actually how I feel about my Kyron Williams rank. I'm starting to turn more into it, but then again, I have him ranked as the ninth running back with Matt. You guys actually hate him, so um that's
I
that's
I
what I'm gonna
ranked him
say
at
about that.
13th. I despise this guy. I hate him. How dare he even grace the football field? Get him out of here. Play it. Do we have it? Do we have it somewhere? Do we have the soundboard?
Oh, I don't know if we have the soundboard.
I don't know if Matt. I think Matt has full control over it.
Well, we're
Happens.
missing Matt, right?
What sound did you
So
want? The get him out of here sound?
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
Yeah. No. In
Get
all
him outta
seriousness, I'm just
Get him outta here.
another
outta
one of
here.
just trying.
Get him out of here. Get him out of
I'm just
here.
trying to.
Why does
Get
it
him
keep
outta
playing?
expectations.
Oh yeah, I gotta pause it.
You have to pause. I'm just trying to keep my expectations real. In a sense, relax, show. We're still on, please.
Oh
Composure.
man.
But yeah, and I'm not. I mean, I think we talked about Devon Achane a bit over the past
Yeah.
couple shows, so I don't think we need to really touch
And
on
Blake
that
Corum's
too
backup.
much. Oh no!
righty.
And Chris's camera froze. So this is off to a great end.
Wait, am I
Oh,
here?
you're back now. You're back.
Oh, thank God!
You are
Oh,
here.
at least it's happening at the end of the show.
Yeah.
We're having fun.
Right. Well, I think that's gonna do it from us today, boys. I don't know about you guys, but talking about top 12 um is over and done with. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else to the show before we go. Forever hold the
Let me
peace.
see. Can I name a random running back here that's gonna do really
Random.
well for no reason? Yeah, I'm gonna go with shout out to my boy J.K. Dobbins, who will finish as the RB 75 on the season, and Joe will still be on the copium the whole. No, I'm kidding. It's okay, Joe. It's okay. I promise. I'm not mean. I'm not gonna be mean.
It was a good trade, Joe. Just keep telling yourself that.
I feel like it was at the time.
And on that note,
Yeah, we're gonna move on here before we do anything. Yeah, Rich, go ahead and end the show, please. Yeah, go ahead, please.
that's gonna do it from us today, folks. Tune in next time. Goodbye.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.